Is it just about the judiciary? Because, I mean, judiciary, the judges, they adjudicate on what comes before them. If investigation is poor, what can they do?
Let me tell you something. You see, a judiciary that is more interested in exhibition of legalism,
What does that mean?
Over, administration of justice. It was, I'm not a lawyer, but it was Lord Denning who said that it is not merely of some importance, but it is of fundamental importance that the essence of the judicial process is justice. And when justice is done, it must be, unambiguously, clear.
But doesn't that take for granted? Doesn't that take for granted that investigation, look, they would have done a good job before you come to the judiciary?
See, there are many things that we hide, and I mean, like we've made, created many lacuna in our, in our laws. Like this, like some of these ones that, like these are electoral law that they say proved beyond reasonable doubt. Do you understand it? So those are the things that you find easy for, you find it so easy to hide in that he has not proved his case beyond reasonable doubt, and then when the person steps out of Nigeria, abroad, they prove it far beyond reasonable doubt that this person is at peace.
You've just said you're not a lawyer, which is good here. But if you look at it again, critically, we have to go back to the basics that will mean some understanding for so many Nigerians, and it has to do with what you see and how you perceive this fight. Mark has asked a question, even Chamberlain's question is tilted towards that. We're looking at the style of the fight. And don't forget that you're no longer in the opposition. Now the opposition, PDP, they have been talking, and sometimes you have to pause and listen to them. And some of the argument is, if you see, for instance, their own members or their scribe in this case has been incarcerated, and they woke up the next morning, someone who was alleged to be a close ally of the president, who is the leader of your party, has been let off to go, maybe to come back before they go to the court, and their own member has been there. These are some of the questions, when you put them before the public or you scrutinize them critically, it doesn't add up. If Mr. A, who's supposed to be your friend in your party, has been asked to perhaps pay some monies and subsequently come to the courts from his home, and Mr. B, who is not a member of your party, is still there, how do you put that before anyone when you talk about a just fight, an objective cause in this fight against corruption?
Thank you, Sulaiman. That question is clear enough for everyone to understand. Let me just say this. The security agencies are privy to information that you and I, don't know about. What filtered into the space, some time ago, was that the fellow you are talking about, you are referring to by that case that PDP was referring to, was already planning to elope, to run out of Nigeria, and had already made elaborate arrangements to doing that.
How did you know that and no one else knew?
That's what I'm saying. That I said the information that filtered out, to the space, was that.
To the space which you were a part of, right?
No.
Because we didn't get that information.
Didn't you read about it? You didn't read about it?
I didn't.
You're in a different space.
Okay, now, and I'd made elaborate arrangements to get to the Caribbeans, and from there, disappear from the radar of the Nigerian authority. Now, no, you know, I did say earlier, you know, I did say that desperate, you know, they say random situations demand what? Random solutions. All right? So when you, this nation is gotten to a desperate time in its history. Never, 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 never in the history of Nigeria has the Nigerian state been brought on her knees, you know, as this. When I mean by that,
you know the fear here.
You understand?
Let me put this.
Okay,
the
no
fear
problem.
there is, you know, we're in a global village where whatever happened, even when you were a child, you can also easily have access. There's been, you know, go to the libraries, newspaper cuttings, and so many things about how the fight against corruption was fought in the 80s, in the early 80s, around 83, 85. And you see big headlines, screaming headlines out, even some information from the news agency of Nigeria at that
200
plunderers,
years.
when the plunderers and looters will not go until they surrender what they have taken. And people are saying, is it the same style this EFCC is adopting in the fight against corruption? What has happened to the judiciary process? That is why Chamberlain has asked that question. Are we going to ignore it because we thought someone who wasn't found guilty was found guilty somewhere else outside the shores of the country?
Well, thank you again, Sulaiman, for your, you know, pointed point. Let me say this. See, you need to understand clearly where we are as a nation. We are in a very, very terrible state. It was like the attitude of the previous government was this Chinese was situated within this Chinese philosophy that loot the burning house. Loot the house, burn, you know, the edifice. You understand? It was like, I mean, one of the things that Nigerians should be grateful to God for was the fact that that previous government did not continue in office. Otherwise, Nigeria, you and I, will probably not be here again because, I mean, when you understand the fact that people that deceived us, that they were collecting money, you know, to fight against insurgency, you know, ended up, you know, sharing out that national patrimony among themselves, you know, without, you know, importing any measure, any armament, you know, without lifting their fingers, you know, positively towards that fight, then you understand that.
Is that really the true picture? I mean, yes, we can say that we're investigating a certain part of the money, but to say they didn't buy anything, is that really the true picture?
Maokwe, my sister, I didn't say it. You read, it was even Channels Television that interviewed the former Chief of Defense Staff, an appointee of the former President Jonathan, that's Air Chief Marshal Alex Bade, who said that, according to, and I quote him, you can replay back, you can play back the tape, that that from his own recollection of things, that the time that they did any purchase of armaments was in 2006 during Obasanjo's era. He said that. I didn't say that. No, listen. Let me finish this. See, so you will understand clearly that between 2000, when Jonathan was President Jonathan was there, and 2015, Nigeria has spent over 4 trillion naira. Because we found out that each succeeding year, with increased activities of Boko Haram, you know, he justified, you know, increasing the budgetary allocation for security. And again, in that other year again, Boko Haram will increase in its activities, which will also justify increase in budgetary allocation on security. So in all, over 4 trillion naira was spent, or allegedly spent, on security. So if Air Chief Marshal Alex Bade came on air, not Rotimi Fashakin saying it, but came on air, you know, Channels Television interviewed him, it was aired that he could not recollect from his, you know, I mean, from where he stood or where he sat as, you know, a military man, you know, any armament being purchased since 2006.
I don't think that was how he quite said it.